I don't have to tell you that the border is totally out of control, and that's by design. Now, Joe Biden named Kamala Harris border czar, and instead of taking the reins, she thinks that the problem is with Congress. Take a look.
Are you able to give us any insight into any conversations you had around border issues and what maybe we can expect moving forward from your team?
Sure. First of all, we have to, again, get Congress to act. I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, governors certainly are dealing with it on the front lines in a place like Arizona, but the reality is that the people in Washington, D.C., who walk around the halls of Congress need to do something.
Well, they already did. They passed immigration law, and you're part of the executive branch where you execute the law of the land. All right, my next guest is the former 46th governor, former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson. Thanks for coming on the program.
Absolutely. It's good to be with you today.
Well, at the end of this, we'll get you on the current document issues. But just as a former administrator of the DEA and a former U.S. attorney, we're not even addressing the fentanyl that's coming across the border. The Democrats want to make this about, migrant families fleeing and filing asylum claims. I don't even know what's going on in these countries that would assume that these are all asylum claims and not economic migrants. But they seem to also be refusing to control the border in a way that would stop this deadly drug from pouring in and killing Americans.
Well, you're absolutely right. This is unconscionable, what is happening through the drug crisis, through the fentanyl that's coming in, some of it through our ports of entry, some of it through our land borders. But this has to be addressed aggressively because it's killing lives. And I was head of the DEA. I understand the challenge that is there along the border. It's a vast border, but you have to put resources there. You have to change policy. You have to engage both all of our law enforcement community, but also we have to engage Mexico to a greater extent to push them to go after the cartel that is controlling the border, that is bringing in the fentanyl, that is causing such extraordinary human disaster there along the border. We have to have a comprehensive approach to it. And to the vice president's point, it can take executive action. Obviously, congressional action would be important, but there's much the executive can do to change the picture along the border.
I think what she means is amnesty. She thinks if they could just pass a law in Congress that would make everything that's happening at the border legal, then there'd be no problem. But the problem is we do have immigration law and it's not being enforced. If somebody is against, for whatever reason, the idea of a border wall, what is the plan to stop the mass waves of illegal crossings? Because, with a recession on the horizon, massive homeless rates in major metropolitan cities, we are having to house, feed, clothe, and educate millions of people coming into this country illegally.
Well, that's right. It's an extraordinary problem. And while Congress can change policy, this executive, first of all, is sending a soft message abroad that our border is open. Secondly, we are not being as aggressive as we should, as I mentioned, on the cartels and the criminal element. And we have to responsibility to make sure that we simply enforce the law. Sure, we need more resources there, but it all starts with enforcing the law. And you're right, the vice president is talking about comprehensive immigration reform, which is concludes a legal path to citizenship. We have to start with a border security bill, one that is going to give us the resources, it's going to give us the tools, and then once you secure the border, then we can deal with the rest of the issues. But we have to give confidence to the American public that we're starting in the right place, securing our border and having a good legal process for those immigrants that need to come here. Let's do it legally.
Here's the thing, and I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. This is something I don't get. We send the money in the form of foreign aid to the countries where these people are coming from to claim asylum. So that means we've already spent from our treasury, our taxpayer dollars, on these foreign governments. And now the people are coming here and we're taking care of them again. So if their countries are so terrible, awful that they're fleeing to claim asylum, why do we continue to send every year an increasing amount of foreign aid to these corrupt governments if they're not being part of the solution?
Well, we have to use that as leverage, if nothing more. It is important to stabilize these countries. Right now, they're coming from Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba. These are societies that are in disarray, and you don't want to send money there because they're communists, they're dictatorships. So you've got to be able to hopefully stabilize those kind of countries. But the other countries is where you want to be able to have an economy there that is able to support a family. You want to be able to have a government that is free of corruption. And if we can, through the DEA that I headed, if we can utilize our resources there to build vetted units that will go after the criminal element in those communities, I think that's a good thing. But we've got to use that as leverage, that investment, to stop the economic migrants, those that come here without the legal authorization to do it. We've got to start with the enforcement, but also I think helping those communities to strengthen their rule of law is important as well.
I know your newest platform is America Strong and Free, but you're also a name tossed around as a potential presidential candidate. So I got to get you on this documents issue. We saw the hyperventilation, in the media, Democrats, some Republicans, when Trump's home was searched for documents. Now it's Biden. Now it's Pence. So, the people that said this was the worst thing in the world when it was Trump are now backpedaling pretty heavily when it comes to Biden and Pence. Is it overclassification that's the problem? You can't say it's terrible when one person does it and ignore it when another person does it.
You're right. It has to have equal application of the law. And there is a problem with overclassification. But that does not justify mishandling of classified information. Now, this is extraordinary, the circumstances that we're in. I think we have to get more facts. It can be done inadvertently. It can be done through a staff person loading it up and sending it out without anybody's knowledge. So we have to get to those facts. But clearly, we have a challenge here with high-level officials handling classified information whenever the term of office or they leave. This is extraordinary, the circumstances we find ourselves in. Merrick Garland's going to have to make a decision. I take Mike Pence at his word. He's a friend of mine, and I'm sure that he didn't know what happened here, but it complicates all of the review of this, and clearly it shows that we've got a problem. Let me emphasize one thing. I've said this from Trump, and I continue to say it. The national interest is getting those classified documents under proper control. That's the national interest. The rest of it, let's see what the facts lead and what action should be taken after we get more facts out.
I'm going to run out of time here, so I might not get a full answer. The Pence story only broke today. I don't know if there's going to be a search of his home by the FBI. But we did see in Hillary Clinton's case and in Biden's case the deference to private legal teams. We did not see that in the case of Donald Trump. I don't know how Merrick Garland can say we don't have different rules for Republicans and Democrats when Hillary's private legal team held a server and then told the FBI what they could see. Same thing for Biden. His private legal team is entering these properties and passing back documents to the FBI where Trump's home was searched. That looks like a two-standard to me. I got 40 seconds.
They can be different facts, but I suspect that Merrick Garland is right now rethinking and saying, maybe I didn't make the right decision by sending in those searches to that property in light of what we've seen. So he very well, he might be realizing himself. It looks like two standards, at least to the American public.